All right, everyone, here we are with War 3 against Agent Graphite. BG1 has the global high ground, and I will have Path 8 in Section 1 and Path 1 in Section 2. I will be bringing in Human Torch, Claire, and Mr. Negative. And here we are. We're going to go ahead and take our Path 8 fight and fights and ManThing on Power Snack Mini. So we're going to boost for 1 hour here. The Silver Surfer on the first node, nothing too crazy. I thought about using Claire, but with the return policy on the node, I was a little worried about power gain. So I just went with someone who has no benefit for the fight, Mr. Negative, and just thought I'd straightforward pound him. So you're just going to see me build light energy, attack normal, not really concerned about the power drain. And I'm going to hope to build enough light energy that when I throw SB1, my block proficiency goes up. So there I am throwing it with 10 light energy. So now I've got a big block proficiency bonus. So now the block damage isn't going to be much at all. And I'm just going to realize that I'm not going to get another bar of power. So I'm just going to start hitting him in the face and trying to KO him. Watching the high ground timer, trying to align that with my combo meters so that I can get the charge off immediately, and it's not always going to work out, but luckily we don't take much damage from it. The damage I take is catching the tail end of that SP1. So lost a little bit of health, but it's okay. We 1 hour boosted. Getting down here in the last 25%. So it's just a straightforward punch him in the face. Now we got to look out here. He could go unblockable, and there it is with SP2. But he is down. So nothing too complicated. Probably could have still used Claire. Okay, next up we're going to take this Warlock on Path 8, and I am going to use Claire here. Game plan was to hopefully stay in Hellfire, build the SB2 off immunity while in Plagued, and then just drop the SP2 while in Hellfire. I believe I somewhat mess up my curses. Yeah, I forgot to change curses before throwing that one. Wasn't a big deal, so we're going to gain power back. We don't have a power drain debuff on us, and I did remove willpower for this fight, so at the moment we're not degenning, but there it is. A little degen, but now we're in Hellfire. Now we have SB2 lined up, so we're going to throw it. It's probably going to take one more SB2 to finish the fight. I think I just combo him down, actually. But we're getting some power gain from the from Mystic Dispersion and removing the armor up. So burn blood, and yeah, just it ends it. So not a complicated fight. This next one is pretty much where Mr. Negative shines really big. He is a hard counter to ManThing, and an even harder counter to ManThing when he's on Power Snack and Backup Recovery. So I called off who was assigned because it was going to require an invulnerability boost, and I went ahead and took it with Mr. Negative. Benefit here is that he's somewhat poison immune because he's buff immune, because you can convert any buff into a light energy and therefore never really hold on to buffs. On top of that, Power Snack isn't going to kick in because he's immune to Nullify, Fate Seal, and Stagger. So the goal here, casually build up light energy through both parry and dodging or baiting SB1. So you see here he's got SB1. I'm going to bait it out. This is going to help us build some light energy. Hopefully not too much. He should throw it, and there we go. And now we're going to convert this light energy while he's got no power, and we're going to attack him off that evade counter. And then we rinse and repeat. So here's another SB1. We're going to bait it out. He threw it willingly. We're going to convert this light energy. Now we're at 12 dark energy. So we kind of want to drop the SB2. Here it is. And this is going to place 13 degen buffs on him. On top of that, 2 petrifies because it was above 10 dark energy, or 10 or more. So that backup recovery right there is non-existent. So no power gain at all that we have to worry about for this node. Through Mystic Dispersion, through Power Snack, through backup recovery. It's just beating ManThing in the face and letting him know buffs don't matter for Mr. Negative. We are going to get to throw one more SP2 here, I think at 14 Dark Energy, so we're going to convert it. Build up this Fury here. There it is, and we're going to land it, but he's below 10%, so this is just going to eat him. So it was a very, very easy fight for Mr. Negative. All right, so moving on to our Section 2 Path 1 fights. I'm going to 6-hour boost here because we're going to take down mini bosses and the boss in these boosts. This first fight is Tigra. I'm still not sure if I'm a fan of using Mr. Negative for her. I thought about using Human Torch instead. Reason being is that when I do dodge her special, I end up triggering a dexterity, and retaliating with that dexterity still feeds Mystic Dispersion. So there are a lot of points in this fight where I have dexterity on me and it's just not natural to back up again to convert it to light energy. And you see there, I just wanted some spacing. I missed the parry at the beginning and it's kind of pushing me to my wall, so I wanted to back her up a little bit. But it's fine because I converted some light energy to dark. It's just going to take a little bit longer to get to SP2. On top of that, with his longer dash back, sometimes Tigra doesn't want to throw specials against Mr. Negative. So I might go with Human Torch from now on if he's on the team. If not, I can make it work. See here, we're at 8 dark energy and 16 light energy. Trying to find this window to convert. I want her to throw this SP1. We're on the wall now though, so a little worried, and we lost the light energy because it went over 10, and anytime you hold on to 10 or more, it starts a 6-second timer and they disappear. Got parried there, trying to get off the wall, and just decided to throw SP2 just so that we can create some room. And this is going to do quite a bit. It's going to reverse the healing. It's going to add, the 8, 9 degen is stacked, so it just did enough damage to knock her off. So still not really sure if I'm a fan of using him versus her. Moving on to the buffet node on this path, and it does have a Mojo on it, so was really excited to test this out. I tested it in the off season and it seems like a pretty good matchup. One thing I realized is that my normal go-to is the parry heavy so that we can get that Fury buff. We're not going to want to get that Fury buff against Mojo just in case any of our actions activate a prompt, and that really short duration of Fury creates a degen. Now I do have weakness on, so having any different or any debuffs on Mojo is going to reduce the degen damage if I do happen to trigger it. But still, you're going to see me pretty much avoid parry heavy. I'm going to build light through dexterity and through parry, but I'm just going to attack him. Trying to bait out this SP1. Now we're going to convert some light to dark. I did happen to activate a prompt there, so he gained power. Luckily, he attacked into us, baiting out this SP1. We're at 8 dark energy with 2 light. Here it's use a special attack. Now I don't want to with him at 3 followers because he's going to power gain. I don't want to use my SP2 yet. I have time, so I'm waiting it out till it drops to 1 follower, and now I'm going to use the SP2. So he has a total of 13 debuffs on him, and you'll see here I have a dexterity, and I just go ahead and use it, hit it, and there's the degen, and there's no degen. So that 40% reduction per debuff kicked in big time there. So it was a really, really, really good counter for Mojo when I can parry. Okay, moving on to our first mini boss on Boss Island. I'm going to be taking this Angela on Vigorous Assault with Claire. I've done this before, I think against AGT as well, or specifically. Nothing special here. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure our MD's not too high. So I'm at MD 3 because I don't want to overshoot SP2. And the goal here is to switch to Hellfire, but also to land an SP2 as soon as we have it, so that we can prevent her buffs from activating. Now, I do believe during this fight, she gets a regen buff before I can get to SP2. All that means is that we're going to hit into her block quite a bit to push her to SP1 or to get her to throw a heavy right there so that we can get to SP2 and then drop it. Now the regen buff didn't go away, so that's unfortunate. So we're going to lay off a little bit. We're not going to parry. because she is unblockable at the moment. But as soon as that one goes away, it prevents the others from activating. So it's just an SB2 rotation, baiting her specials or heavy and just throwing SB2. So it's not a hard fight at all. I can see how it may look like it could get complicated with her abilities in the node, but it's still a pretty straightforward fight. All right, so probably the most intense fight all war, even though I have the boss, is Weapon X on Stunning Reflection with Polka Dot power. I am taking this with Claire. I do prefer to stay in Hellfire for the damage. The rotation at the start when he's not Berserk and unblockable is to beta heavy, switch into Plagued, land a poison off a medium, parry him, and then attack and switch to Hellfire, and then stay in Hellfire for the rest of the fight. At that point, he should have a special. He'll probably throw it or I'll bait it, and then he'll go Berserk. And then we have to play the game of find an opening while he's unblockable. Now, luckily, I dueled a lot before this fight and realized that if I'm holding block right before trying to dex during his Berserk phase, that he will willingly throw a heavy, whereas in the past, I've had problems when I just try and dex. So you'll see that I'm kind of holding block and then dexting, and he's willingly throwing heavies. And then I accidentally moved out of Hellfire, so I'm currently in Blood, which is not where I want to be, mainly because Blood does not turn off the Stun Reflect and allow me to parry when he leaves his Berserk phase. Also, I'm being a little aggressive during his Berserk, which I shouldn't be. So here I thought I placed an Incinerate, so I tried to parry him, and I ended up parrying myself. Good thing we use Gray Boosts. Once I realized that, even after throwing this SP2, or I probably realized it after the SP2 when I didn't see all the damage, I went ahead and switched curses so that I can get back into Hellfire, and I went back through that rotation of placing a poison so that I could stun him. And there we go in Hellfire. Now I'm going to try and bait this out and get him to go Berserk. Here comes the block dodges or dex so that we can bait out a heavy, and there it is. Now we're going to throw this SP2, which I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have just comboed him to try and get him out of Berserk by the time I got to my wall so that the healing wasn't too much. But I'll realize during this Berserk phase when I'm fighting that I should probably wait and hold the SP2 and try to time it with when he's not Berserk, so that I can do the most damage without him healing like crazy. And there I thought I was going to reach SP2 and accidentally threw an SP1. He's still Berserk, he's almost out of it. And as you can tell, I've made this fight a lot longer than it needed to be. Threw an Incinerate so that we up the damage, and then threw SP2. So in a better spot. Now we're going to let our basic attacks do a lot of damage from him being stunned and incinerated. And now we're just laying on the damage while he's on cooldown from being in Berserk. So now we're in a good spot. Now we've got to wait out this Unstoppable. Still blocking and dexing so that he's willingly throwing these heavies out in the middle of the field. It's like he's trying to block break you, and there it was, the last one I needed, and down he goes. So made it a lot longer than I needed to. Also learned something from dueling, so practice tools for fights you're worried about. Next is this Magneto on Brute Force. I'm going to be taking it with Human Torch, and someone has placed the White Magneto pre-fight so that I can reliably parry stun the entire fight and have the stun last for 2 seconds. Nothing special about this fight. Magneto's hits are energy based, so we're going to just stick to blocking, mostly parry, and doing medium, light, medium, pushing him to SP1, baiting SP1, rinse and repeat. You'll see here that I push him a little bit further. It's fine. I'm just laying on the damage. I'm in Nova, so it's kind of nice. We're kind of keeping track of high ground, but the fight goes really smoothly and really quick that it's not too much of an issue, especially since we can dodge all of the hits of his SP1, so it's not going to have any added damage. Just threw the SP2, decided not to retaliate because of Limber with the stun. Was worried about him coming out of it too quick, so just didn't chance it. And you'll see here, this next SP1 just kind of takes forever to bait. And I believe Degen eats up like 1/3 of my health from brute force. So finally throws it. And here we go. Back into him. Now I did a longer combo there to remove high ground charge, the high ground charge. And down he goes. So not a hard fight for Human Torch. All right, so going into this Ebony Maw boss, I believe this Ebony Maw boss made me kind of realize how someone dies to this fight. Just because if you're dexing too much and he's willingly throwing SB1 too often, the buffs add up and push him to SB2 pretty quickly. So the solution to that is to slow play it after an SP1 with him and not really try to bait back-to-back SP1s, but also try to avoid triggering dex as much after an SP1. So be really alert to when he's going to throw a heavy, and only try to dex when he does throw the heavy, or only try to dodge, not trigger dex when he does throw the heavy. And then be mindful of the duration of a Fury buff if it's on you. So usual game plan, take blocked hits, build that temp. I believe this Maw was willing to throw his heavy pretty much the entire fight. So it takes a little bit to build my temperature here. Medium like medium to lay on the incinerate / Nova damage. There's that Fury buff, and he's just shy of a bar of power. So I'm gonna push him to SP1, not paying attention to the Fury buff, and now I'm gonna try and bait out the SP1, but then the Fury buff went and I realized he's really close to SP2. So don't hit him while we have this dexterity buff. SP1 went ahead and removed that dexterity buff. So he's pretty much always sitting at SP1 at the start of this fight once he got going. And there I triggered a dexterity and it left, and so did the Fury buff. So now he's at SP2. So now I have to block it while he's got a high ground charge. Which was fine. Falter was coming and my temp was too low, so it was gonna miss. And then I got cornered here. So we're gonna go ahead and get out of the corner and break his focus with SP3. And then we're just gonna go right back into medium light medium. I do have a dex buff, so he's going to get pushed a little past. There we go. Now that is kind of a neat thing about Maw, is that you can take the first 2 hits into your block of his SP1 and then dodge out in the middle and not trigger dex. So he's still somewhat an easy boss in my opinion. So BG1 finished with 1 death to their 2, which was great. And as an alliance, we actually beat them 7-5. Now we got lucky. We were actually 122 fights cleared with 5 deaths. An Agent Graphite only had 1 with about 81 fights left, or cleared. So we were a little worried, but luckily they died enough near the end there to kind of give us the win. So thanks, AGT. But yeah, in order to compete with some of the other top Master Alliances, we're going to need to bring that death count lower than 4, like I said last war, preferably 3 or less. But I think we can pull it off. Let's see how the next war goes. Thanks for stopping by, and keep your eyes out for the next one.